Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to do a little spread in my Life Crafted album. Starting slightly different today. I have this photo that I took. It's this little story that I want to tell about my attempt to cut back on some coffee and start drinking a little bit of tea. I know, who am I even? But I started with my photo and I had these amazing yellow foam alphas from the Citrus Swiss shop. They went perfectly with my photo, and so I decided to kind of go with this really heavily colored themed spread. So I had that yellow as a base, and that worked really nicely with this lemon paper. It's got the yellow, but it also introduced a little bit of teal. And so I went through my November kit and I pulled out all of the sort of greeny teal papers, anything that was yellow, and I just ended up with this sort of really heavy color scheme, which I love. It's a little bit different for me, no pink in sight, but the yellow is just so sunshiny and cherry. I love it. Now, I have pulled out some journaling cards so that I can do my journaling on those, but I'm starting by building my background. And to do that, I'm going to grab all of these papers and just trim down some different sized strips of those papers. And I'm trying to use like one of each, so cutting two strips and use one on each side of the spread just to kind of balance things out. But I am cutting different size strips and just eyeballing those as to keeping the page really balanced color wise, and you can see that really heavy teal with the yellow, and there's some lighter patterns in there, so determining the sizes of the strips based on this sort of color weight. Now, it's really hard for you to see on my white desk here, but I have got two base pages in white cardstock already trimmed out. I trimmed those to 5 by 8 1/4, and I have hole punched them already, so they're all ready to go. I normally keep a stack of those in my Life Crafted album so that I don't have to do that boring process every time I want to start creating a page. So I've kind of eyeballed my strips where they're going to go, and I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive to each of the paper strips and line them up on my paper. Now what I'm doing is leaving a little white border around the 4 edges of my page, my base page, and then I am leaving a few little white gaps in between those strips of paper. So although it's sort of heavily color themed, I want to add a little bit of white space in there as well. So I'm doing that on both base pages that I've got there, and I am ignoring the fact that I've hole punched it for now. So when I cover those, glue those strips down, they are covering the hole punches. I'm going to take care of that in a minute, but I did want the color to come all the way to the edge of the page and not have a big white strip down the middle where my hole punched pieces are. So having the hole punches there in the first place will help me re-punch those holes later on, but for now I just want to get the background down. So you can see the journaling card that I've picked out. It's going to be a little bit of list journaling, which I love. It's always my favorite, but because this page is erring on the very simple side, I wanted to add a little bit of texture in here. So what I've done is taken these 2 base pages over to my sewing machine, and I did spend a lot of time sewing. I'll be honest, I stitched around each one of those strips of paper. So on all 4 sides of each strip, I have done a little bit of stitching with my sewing machine, just with some white thread, and then trimmed off all of those extra threads. And then I'm just going to stick my fingernail in underneath the paper and just lift it a little bit. So it's not really like distressing the edge, it's just kind of lifting it up just a tiny bit, and it gives it a little bit of definition, a little bit of texture, a tiny amount of dimension, but I'm only going to do that on the lemon papers. So just those 2 strips, and they are going to run behind both my photo and my journaling. Speaking of which, I've just taken my journaling card over to my typewriter and just run that through. So although it's talking about there's 3 points on the card, 3 numbers, this is all one story. So I'm literally just talking about 3 different points of the same story. And what I did was end my journaling like I've left off the last word, and that's where those beautiful yellow alphas are going to come back into play. So because I've only lifted those edges a tiny little bit, it's super easy to stick the journaling card down. I know that sort of defeats the purpose of the dimension there, but it's really easy to stick those down, and then just the little bits that stick outside of the journaling card have that dimension. So here we go. I'm going to add my last word with these amazing yellow alphas. I mean, you know I'm a huge fan of the pink ones. Forever will be, but these yellow ones are something special. So I'm adding my last word in here. I realize I haven't stuck down my photo yet, so I'm going to do that as well. None of these pages are going in page protectors. That's why they're 5 inches wide. They're the same width as a page protector. And so I am using a significant amount of double-sided tape just to make sure that these things stay really nicely stuck down. So I'm adding my photo a little bit higher than my journaling so that I get this really strong line, this diagonal line from the top left of my spread all the way down to the bottom right. But to really, really emphasize that, I'm going to add just a little bit of embellishment, not too much. Like I said, this spread is really simple, but I'm going to add a few little puffy sticker hearts, and I am being careful to just pick out some neutral ones. So they're either black and white, which kind of comes off as grey, or these teal ones. There's no yellow stickers on this sheet, so I'm just sticking with the teal, and I'm adding some up the top left and some down the bottom right, and then I'm going to go in with some of these little enamel dots. These are so good, and you can see here there are yellow ones. They're perfectly matched on here, so I'm going to add some yellow and a couple of the different colored teal ones. I'm basically just adding a whole bunch, so I'm not really too worried about creating clusters here. It's really only 2 main clusters at the top and the bottom, but I'm just adding a whole bunch. I love the texture it adds, as well as those little pops of color. Rather than a kind of tone-on-tone effect, I am kind of trying to alternate them. So if I've got a yellow strip here, I'm adding mostly teal, and if I've got a teal strip, I'm adding mostly yellow, or certainly the lighter teal strips are getting kind of the darker teal enamel dots. Now I added just a couple in the middle of both pages, again just to create that real visual pull, and that's pretty much the spread all done. I told you it was simple. I'm just loving the bright colors of this spread, and it felt so nice to kind of step away from my usual color scheme of pink and teal. I know I've kept the teal in there, but I just love that pop of yellow, and those alphas, mwah, so good. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.